بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we completed lesson 9 on the motion of the soul. Now we start lesson 10 of the book. This is lesson 11 for our course, but based on the book we are starting lesson 10, which is about eternity of the soul, whether the soul is eternal as some believe or not eternal. The term which is used in Arabic is khulud. Khulud, according to some experts, as you see in the footnote, for example, At-Turayhi in Majma' al-Bahrain or Ibrahim Mustafa in Al-Mu'jam al-Wasit, they said in Arabic khulud can mean to be there forever, to be everlasting, whether it is in existence or in some condition. So either this being's existence is forever or this condition of this being is forever. It can be used for both, but it can also be used for something which is not eternal, it's not everlasting, but it's going to last a lot, for a long time. So this is something to remember. Although normally when we hear khulud, this doesn't come to mind, so this is not the first assumption. The first assumption of khulud is to have no end, but sometimes can be used for something which lasts for a long time, but not necessarily forever. Now, when it is used for nafs, when we say khulud and nafs, it means whether nafs, human soul, exists forever after it has come to existence. We are not talking about the beginning of it. We talked about hudus or qadam before. We are talking about continuity. After it has come to existence, is it going to last forever or not? We are not talking about lasting for a long time. For us, eternity is the question. So there are two possibilities, two options about khulud. One is true khulud, khulud haqiqi, true eternity. And by this we mean the soul of every person, every human being, after they die, will remain with the same identity. It will be my soul, your soul, with all the characteristics, all the identity parameters. But there is khulud غير حقيقي, untrue or non-real khulud, when nafs remains but not with this identity, not the same person. Here what we mean is the first. Our discussion is about khulud haqiqi, whether nafs has khulud haqiqi, has true or real eternity or not. I remember many years ago when I went to Poland, so there was a conference in Krakow, and I talked about revelation from Shia perspective. Over there my hosts were Catholics, but I also met with a Protestant priest who was married, but in an accident he lost his wife. So he was very sad. And I was told that he is very sad. And I told him that I hope and believe that you can, see each other again in the next world. And we are not dying, and finishing. Then he said something that remained in my mind. Maybe this is not true about all Christian, denominations. But what he said, according to his idea or his denomination, was we are not going to have the same identity. So even if you are going to meet, you are not going to be again the same like husband and wife, or the same, two people that know each other and live together in dunya, they know each other. So he had this idea, and this was causing lack of ability to reconcile with this problem or to console himself. Because if you believe that soon we are going to meet again the same person that we lost, it's much easier. But he said, in our understanding, we don't have the same identity. So, we here mention 4 possible positions. Although there can be more, but we select 4 important ones. The first position is denial of eternity or eternality of the soul. According to people in ancient Greece, like Leucippus and Democritus. Democritus is very famous for his ideas about the particles. So according to these two, and among contemporary philosophers like Russell, they believe that when you die, human life stops. There is nothing to come. It's end of the story. Quran also refers that there were people who believed in this idea that death is end of everything and we are not going to return. The second position is the soul will remain, but has to belong to another body. This is the idea of reincarnation, tanasukh. So it keeps going from one body to another body. Of course, here also again, the identity is not kept. The third position is that the soul will remain forever, but without any understanding. After separation from the body, there is no understanding until the day of resurrection. Resurrection is when understanding also comes back. Position 4 is that the soul is always there and always with understanding. Death is not going to stop our understanding. So even during Barzakh, we have understanding. This is the idea of all monotheistic religions, all Abrahamic faith. They have this idea. So he says we choose only 2 major currents and discuss them. We don't need to talk about all the 4. Basically, those who believe in eternity of the soul and those who don't believe. For those who believe in eternity or eternality of the soul or permanence of the soul, there are intellectual arguments and there are arguments from the Quran and Hadith. For intellectual arguments, we can mention few. Number one, they say life and death are opposite to each other, ضدان. You know, ضدان أمران وجوديان يتواردان على موضوع واحد لا يمكن اجتماعهما. And some people also add بينهما غاية الخلاف. So two existential things that are opposite each other, they can never exist together, and they will be belonging to the same subject, one after the other. And as some people said, there must be maximum contrast between them. بينهما غاية الخلاف. So with this understanding, now we go back to what they say. They say life and death are zidda. They are opposite to each other. They can never be together. Either you live or you die. You have died. Then they say from every Z, every opposite, the other opposite comes. We keep going from one opposite to the other. For example, from childhood, youth comes. From youth to the old comes. From separation, belonging comes. From belonging, separation comes. From ugliness, beauty comes. From beauty, ugliness comes. From right, false comes. From false, right comes. So they want to establish this as a rule. And then they say, when we bring it to the discussion about the soul, human soul belongs to the body. Separation from the body comes from this belonging, because separation is opposite to belonging. Either you are separated from the body or belong to the body. And then from separation, belonging comes. From belonging, separation comes. And there is no end. Sheikh Fayyazi says, this idea that from an opposite, the other opposite comes and then keeps, coming one after the other, he says, we can refute this with three counter examples. Misal naqzi, counter examples. For example, existence of God and non-existence of God are opposite to each other. But none of them comes from the other. His existence doesn't come from his non-existence, and his non-existence doesn't come from existence. Or necessity of God and being contingent, they are opposite to each other. But none of them comes from the other. And if someone says this rule that we said it doesn't apply to God, it's for mumkinat. She says, first of all, you didn't say this rule is limited to mumkinat. You presented it as a general rule. Plus, even if you limit it to mumkinat, still there is problem. He says, if this rule is general or universal, it should include the soul's life and death, because life and death are opposite to each other. While, according to Plato, nafs is eternal, has no beginning. So it is not coming from non-existence. These are counterexamples, misal al-Naghzi. But if you want to go for a constructive argument, he says this rule that you mentioned, that from every opposite the other opposite comes, he says it's not self-evident and it's not also proved to come from something self-evident. There is no argument. We have not seen any strong argument to suggest this. It seems they have just put some examples and made induction, istiqra. But there is no argument for it. The second argument is azaliyat nafs, from eternality, the fact that nafs has no beginning. They put 7 arguments together, 7 premises together to come to this conclusion. Number 1, certainly our soul has knowledge about ma'qulat, in addition to mahsusat and mutakhayilat, in addition to those things that are known by senses or the stored images of them. We have also knowledge about ma'qulat, intelligibles. Number 2, in the material world, even if we have knowledge about what is perceived and what is imagined, we don't have knowledge about the intelligibles in alam madde. You have to go beyond alam madde to have knowledge about ma'qulat, because in alam madde only mahsusat, those things which can be perceived by senses, are there, and our idrak hissi, our sensual perception, belongs to them. So ادراک حسی و خیالی در عالم ماده شکل میگیرد، در حالی که معقول خارجی در این عالم وجود ندارد تا علم عقلی به آن تعلق بگیرد. So what is understood through senses, through perception, or khayal, which is the stored images of senses, it takes place in the universe of the matter. But here in the universe of matter, there is no ma'qul khariji, what is externally intelligible. 3, according to this basis that we have mentioned, the existence of the soul before belonging to the body in the universe of intelligibles, it becomes necessary. We must have existence of the soul in the universe of ma'qulat, which here is muthul, not super ma'qulat, but at least muthul, which are in between. So nafs must have understood something in that realm and now remembers. This is the Platonic idea. Number 4, existence of the soul before belonging to the body in the universe of muthul cannot be with materialistic things, characteristics. If nafs in alam muthul, it has to be free from madde. 5, if nafs is mujarrad, it must not be hadis. This is what we discussed before also. They have this idea that kullu hadisin masbuqun bil madda. So if nafs is mujarrad, then doesn't need to be hadis, because hudus needs madde hamil quwwah. 6, the being which is not hadis is necessarily azali, has no beginning. If there is nothing hadis, that means it has been there forever, from beginning. So nafs is azali, and if it is azali, it is abadi. If it has no beginning, it has no end. So nafs has no end. Sheikh Fayyazi says we have some problems with this argument. One problem is that the third premise, or the third argument, or third part of the argument, has problem. because it was based on the Platonic idea that knowledge is remembrance. Knowledge is a matter of remembrance. In Shahid Sadr, our philosophy, Falsafatuna, he calls Nazariyatul Istizkar. Nazariyatul Istizkar means we used to know everything, but when the soul belonged to the body, we forgot, and now we recover. He says, but we don't believe in this. We don't believe that knowledge is just a matter of remembering. Also, the fifth premise is problematic. The first premise says اگر نفس مجرد باشد نباید حادث باشد زیرا هر حادث زمانی مادی است. Only material things are حادث. نفس has to be not حادث. He says we don't accept this rule, as we said before, that every حادث has to be preceded by madde, which carries قوة, potentiality. Then the third criticism is that azaliyat can only be correlated with abadiyat if it is azaliyat zati, not azaliyat zamani. Azaliyat zamani means although it is mumkin, but we don't find any beginning. We say this is not enough. It has to be not mumkin in its essence. Also, what they are arguing for is less than what they claimed. Because even if their argument were correct, it can be used for those souls which can understand ma'qulat. You know, understanding ma'qulat, real universal concept is not easy. Even some people say perfection of human beings is to be able to understand ma'qulat without putting them into any material form or shape or image. So we should not restrict your argument only to the people who have understanding of ma'qulat. The third argument for khulud, which has been mentioned by some people, is that according to the ideas of the muthul or ideas of Plato, every material being has a Rabbun Nur, has a archetype, and that archetype is something that remains forever. For the soul, they say Rabbun Nur is life, and therefore the soul can never be there without life. Soul has to always have life. Sheikh Fayyazi says we don't have any specific decisive proof for the existence of alam muthul. Even the arguments that some people mention, he says we can question them. Second problem is that what they say and what it requires is that nafs, as long as it is nafs, should take benefit and assistance from its Rabbun Nur. But this doesn't mean that nafs has become eternal or everlasting. Having Rabbun Nur doesn't guarantee to be eternal. Otherwise, everything which has Rabbun Nur has to be eternal. Argument 4, immateriality of the soul, تجرد نفس. So the first premise is nafs is free from madde. The second is that what is immaterial and mujarrad should have no potentiality, should not have any waiting condition. Number 3, those things which are expiring, those things which have potential of stopping to exist or function, these are the people that they are zawal pazir. They are like mortal, they can be finished. But nafs is eternal and it cannot be finished. Then he says, you know, he has very different ideas than philosophers about madde and also hudus و qadam of the soul. He says, in mujarradat, there is isti'dad, there is preparedness, and we accept that. But to say that it is because of madde, he says, it's difficult, it's problematic to accept this. Because isti'dad doesn't need madde. You don't need to have first madde of something and then isti'dad for it. The second argument is, even if we accept that only material things have quwwa and isti'dad, so mujarradat we say that they don't have quwwa and isti'dad, still what you are saying is not complete. And he says our discussion is about expiration and finishing, and this doesn't need madde, which is carried by something substantial. So امکان ماهوی برای زائل شدنش بس است و امکان استعدادی نیاز نیست. The fact that it is not in self-contradicting, it's not problematic, it is just ممكن بالمعنى الأخص, contingent, that is enough. But this is one side of the story. Arguments for the fact that the soul is everlasting, according to some philosophers. Of course, Sheikh Fayyazi didn't accept their arguments, even if he may agree with them about the position itself, but the arguments he didn't accept. And now, intellectual arguments for those who deny. He says, they have some arguments. Number 1, they say none of the arguments to prove eternity or eternality of the soul is adequate. And then, if there is no adequate dalil argument, it means there is dalil for Adam. Adam dalil dalilun lil Adam. Of course, we don't accept this logically, but they say like this. The fact that we don't have any argument to prove immateriality of the soul, it means that the soul is not immaterial. This argument is not strong. First of all, because we have intellectual reason for certain things, but not for all the ideas that we have as philosophers. Sheikh Fayyazi believes some of the philosophical positions based on the hadith, not on the Burhan. So he says, although we don't have intellectual reason for khulud nafs, but not to have good reason is different from having no reason. Maybe we don't have good reason to say, but there is a good reason there that we have to discover, and maybe there is no good reason. Number two, second argument. This argument needs some attention more than maybe previous ones, because they mention something that is not directly experienced by us. They say there are lower animals, lower than human beings. And these lower animals has been said that if you are eternal, they have to also be eternal. Anyone who believes in the everlasting aspect of the human soul must believe animals who are lower also will last. And they want to say that this is not what they can hold. What is the correlation? A human being is the evolved form of a lower quality of animal. Is a evolved version. You can guess that these are the people who believe in takamul, in the theory of evolution, and takamul, the baqai ansab, that the one that is more suitable to fit into the environment and face the challenges will survive. So they say animals which are lower than us and they are like our beginning, used to be like them, they are not eternal. So why human being all of a sudden should be eternal or everlasting? Then you may say, why you are insisting that animals which are lower than us are not eternal, they are not there forever? Then they say, one is their continuity is not that valuable so that the one who grants existence would grant them existence. There is no need for them to continue. Number two, if lower animals remain, then there will be not enough space for other things. Number three, there are beings which are very simple and not complicated and don't have those perfections. Number four, the reason for creation of animals to be there for some time is that through reproduction they can continue their generations to come can continue. So this is the argument of the people who are against eternity of the soul. Then there is a discussion, there is a kind of evaluation and feedback. Mainly this idea was based on theory of evolution, and theory of evolution by itself is not a scientific fact. Even if there are some things that can be a kind of evidence, but it's not proof. And also, there doesn't have to be a big difference between a monkey and a human being. They are both two species. And we need to believe that it's possible that lower and higher beings, they get along with each other very well and they can be very close. So why you emphasize that monkeys cannot be resurrected or cannot be forever, but human beings can be forever? maybe they can also face what we face to some extent. And then, referring to 4 points that they mentioned for second premise. For example, they said there are animals which are lower than us, and they put in the form of bi arzesh. They have no value. What's the argument for that? This has not been proved. Number 2, they say if they exist and they don't disappear, they don't finish, then we would not have enough space for all the generations to be there, the living ones and the dead ones. تنگ شدن جهان برای دیگر موجودات. If they remain, then for other beings there is no enough space. This point is also not complete, because it is soul which is going to be eternal, and it doesn't have madde, it doesn't have location, so it's somehow free. It's not going to fill the gap, fill the space. It's something free of space and limitations. How many bodies you can put in a room? Limited. For example, in a room of normal size, you can put 10 people, 20 people, 30 people maximum. But how many souls you can put in the room, if there is such a thing as soul being in the room? Endless, because they are not feeling part of the physical space. How many people can, for example, being in the shrine and talking to the Prophet or Imams, even from distance? Many. It doesn't mean that the physical shrine has to be very big. The spiritual haram is very big. And why lower animals cannot continue to exist? Why you have taken it for granted? Why all the species have to stop? So, this is a brief discussion about intellectual arguments for and against the eternal aspect of soul. Now we have to go into second part of our discussion, which is actually very much discussed and debated, because there are even Muslims, especially among mystics or people who are involved in theoretical irfan, that they believe that eternality of human soul, at least for the people who go to hell, has problem. And so there are different attempts. So inshallah, what we have to do next session, we have lengthy discussion about transmitted arguments for immateriality or for eternity of the soul, based mainly on the Quran, some verses of the Quran. We can argue for that. Then the question comes, what about eternal punishment? Why there must be eternal punishment, although no one has lived eternally? Someone lived 50 years, 60 years, 100 years and did bad things, but why he should suffer eternally? And inshallah we have to explain that. Some people say no, there is no eternal punishment at all. It means long journey, long distance, long time, as we said in the beginning when we defined the meaning of the term khulud. So we will see, is possible to have eternal punishment or not? Is it possible to be in the heaven forever or not? So I inshallah resume from page 181. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Is there any question, any comment?